She said it while folding laundry, not whispered, not apologetic, just stated it like she was announcing a dentist appointment or a haircut she'd scheduled for Thursday. I'm going to see my lover. Marissa didn't even look up from the basket. White towels, the ones we'd gotten as wedding gifts 6 years ago. She folded them with the same mechanical precision she'd always had, corners meeting corners, smooth and efficient. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, pretending to review inspection reports for a commercial build on Westwood. The cursor blinked on the screen. I didn't move it. Okay, I said. That made her look up. Not with guilt or shame or even defiance, just mild curiosity, like I'd given an unexpected answer to a simple question. That's it? She asked. Okay? Enjoy your last happy days with him, I said. The words came out steady, calm. I'd surprised myself with how calm they were. Marissa's hands paused mid-fold. She studied me for 3, maybe 4 seconds. Then she smiled. Not cruel exactly, more like satisfied, like I'd finally confirmed something she'd suspected about me all along. You're adorable when you try to sound threatening, she said. She finished the towel, set it on the stack, and walked out of the kitchen. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bedroom door close, heard the shower start running 10 minutes later. I stared at the laptop screen until the words blurred. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't arrive in one moment. It builds. It accumulates in small observations you file away because you're not ready to assemble them into the larger picture. The late returns from work drinks, the sudden interest in new clothes, the way she started holding her phone face down on every surface. I'd known for 2 months. I'd suspected for 4. I'd been cataloging for longer than that. My name is Adrian Holt, and I'm a commercial building inspector for the city. It's not glamorous work. I check that contractors follow code. I verify fire suppression systems and load-bearing calculations and accessibility compliance. I know how buildings function. I know their systems. I know their vulnerabilities. I also know people underestimate inspectors. We're bureaucrats with clipboards. We're obstacles to getting certificates of occupancy signed. We're forgettable men in forgettable jobs who show up, check boxes, and leave. That's exactly how Marissa saw me. Harmless, predictable, safe. She had no idea what I was capable of. I closed the laptop and walked to the window. Our house sat on a quiet street in a neighborhood that prided itself on being up and coming. Translation: developers were buying property, tearing down old homes, and building modern boxes that sold for 3 times what the original lots were worth. Caleb Rourke owned half those developments. I'd met him exactly once, at a community meeting about a zoning variance. He was tall, gym-fit, with the kind of teeth that come from expensive orthodontics and regular whitening. He spoke with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Marissa had been with me that night. She'd shaken his hand, laughed at something he said, exchanged numbers for neighborhood updates. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. 3 months later, she came home with a new perfume, something expensive, something I hadn't bought her. The shower stopped running upstairs. I heard the bathroom door open, heard her moving around in the bedroom. My phone buzzed. Text from Owen Pike, my coworker at the permits office. You still coming by tomorrow? Got that info you wanted. I typed back, yeah. Morning work? Works for me. Owen didn't ask questions. That was why I liked him. We'd worked together for 5 years, processed thousands of permit applications, shared countless terrible break-room coffees. He understood the system, he understood access, and he owed me 3 favors from times I'd covered his weekend inspections when his kid had soccer tournaments. Marissa came back downstairs wearing the black dress, the one with the neckline that showed just enough to be noticed. She'd done her makeup carefully, not overdone, just enhanced. I'll be back late, she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. Have fun, I said. She grabbed her purse and keys, paused at the door. "Adrian," she said. I looked at her. "You really don't care?" I could have said 1,000 things. I could have screamed. I could have begged. I could have thrown her carefully folded laundry across the kitchen and demanded explanations. Instead, I smiled. "I care," I said. "Just not the way you think." She stared at me for a moment longer, then shrugged and left. I waited until her car disappeared down the street. Then I opened my laptop again. The file I'd been building was labeled Westwood Inspection Notes. Boring. Official sounding. The kind of thing no one would look at twice if they happened to see it on my desktop. Inside were 6 months of observations, dates, times, locations. I knew where Caleb Rourke took his meetings. I knew which properties he was developing. I knew his investors, his contractors, his timelines. I knew which projects were behind schedule and which ones were skating by on provisional permits that could be pulled for code violations. I knew where he was weakest. And I knew Marissa thought I was too harmless to do anything about it. That was her first mistake. I didn't follow them. That would have been desperate, pathetic, the kind of thing she'd expect from someone like me. Instead, I went to work. Monday morning, I arrived at the permits office at 7:30. Owen was already there, drinking coffee that smelled like it had been brewed sometime last week. "Morning," he said, not looking up from his computer. "Morning." I dropped my bag on my desk and logged into the system. The database covered every commercial property in the city: building codes, inspection schedules, permit histories, contractor records. I pulled up Caleb Rourke's active projects: 4 developments currently under construction, 2 more waiting for final occupancy approvals, 1 stalled in permit review for a variance on parking requirements. Owen rolled his chair over. "So what's this about?" he asked quietly. "Need background on a developer," I said. "Guy's name is Caleb Rourke." Owen nodded slowly. "The Westwood project guy?" "That's him. What do you need?" "Everything that's public record, permits, violations, inspection notes, timeline on his current builds." Owen didn't ask why. He pulled up his own terminal and started typing. "Give me 20 minutes, he said. I spent those 20 minutes reviewing inspection reports I'd filed over the past year. Routine stuff: electrical work, plumbing, fire suppression systems. Then I started looking at properties near Caleb's developments, buildings I'd inspected, buildings I had legitimate reasons to return to, buildings where I could show up without raising questions." Owen printed out a stack of documents and dropped them on my desk. "Interesting reading," he said. "Your guy Rourke has 3 open violations from last month. Minor stuff. Delayed inspections. 1 complaint from a neighboring property about construction debris. Complaints go anywhere? Pending. Nothing enforced yet." I flipped through the pages. Permit delays. Contractor switches mid-project. A pattern of pushing timelines and hoping inspectors wouldn't notice. "He's cutting corners," I said. "Most of them do," Owen said. "Long as nothing major gets flagged." I looked up at him. What if something major did get flagged? Owen held my gaze for a moment. Then he shrugged. "I'd have to file it," he said. "That's the job." I nodded. "Yeah, that's the job." He went back to his desk. I spent the rest of the morning mapping out Caleb's projects on a physical timeline: construction schedules, investor meetings, permit deadlines. He was overextended. 3 projects running simultaneously, all of them behind schedule. If one got delayed, the others would cascade. Investors would get nervous. Contractors would start demanding payments he might not have liquid. Everything depended on momentum. That was his vulnerability. At lunch, I drove to Westwood. The development was half finished. 6 townhouses in a row, modern design, glass and steel, the kind of thing that looked expensive in renderings but cheap in person. 2 were framed but not closed in. 1 had walls but no roof. The others were at various stages between foundation and finish. I parked across the street and watched. Workers moved with the slow efficiency of people paid by the hour. A foreman shouted something about drywall delivery. Someone's radio played classic rock too loud. Caleb's truck sat in the makeshift lot, black, spotless, vanity plate that said DVLPR. I watched for 15 minutes. Then I drove back to the office. That night, Marissa came home at 11. I was in the living room reading, or pretending to read. I'd been on the same page for 40 minutes. She didn't say anything, just kicked off her shoes and went upstairs. I waited. 5 minutes later, I heard the shower again. I opened my laptop and pulled up the file. New entry, Monday night, late return, typical pattern. I added a note about Caleb's construction timeline, added another about the permit violations. Then I opened a new document and started writing. Not evidence, not accusations, just observations, patterns, consequences. If someone were to file a formal complaint about construction debris violating city code, it would trigger a mandatory reinspection. That would delay the Westwood project by at least 2 weeks. If someone were to notice that the electrical rough-in didn't match the approved plans, it would require a complete redo. That would delay it by 6 weeks, maybe more. If someone were to mention to the right investor that permits were being delayed, that investor might start asking uncomfortable questions about timelines and budget overruns. I wasn't planning violence, I was planning pressure. The shower stopped. I heard Marissa moving around upstairs. I saved the document, closed the laptop, went to bed. She was already asleep when I got there, or pretending to be. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe. The thing about revenge is that people expect it to be loud, explosive, dramatic. They expect confrontation, shouting, broken dishes. They don't expect patience. They don't expect someone like me to simply wait, watch, collect information, build a complete picture of exactly how to apply force in the places where it would fracture everything. Marissa thought I was harmless because I didn't yell. Caleb thought I was irrelevant because I carried a clipboard. They were both wrong. I closed my eyes and started planning. Wednesday morning, I had 3 inspections scheduled, all routine, all buildings I'd cleared before for various stages of construction. The third one was 2 blocks from Caleb's Westwood site. I arrived at 2:30, spent 40 minutes checking fire extinguisher placements and exit signage. Everything was fine. I signed off on the inspection and walked outside. Then I walked 2 blocks. The Westwood site was busier than Monday. More workers, more noise. A concrete truck was backing up to one of the foundations. I stood across the street with my clipboard, looking official. No one questioned inspectors who looked like they belonged. I watched the crew work, watched the foreman directing the pour, watched the truck operator maneuvering into position. Then I saw it. The drainage system around the foundation wasn't right. The slope was off. Not by much, maybe 2 degrees, but enough that water would pool instead of running off. It wasn't my site, wasn't my inspection. I had no official reason to be here, but I took photos anyway. 5 minutes later, Caleb's truck pulled up. He got out wearing designer jeans and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. He walked over to the foreman, all confidence and easy smiles. I stayed where I was. Our eyes met across the street. He frowned, probably trying to place me. I was familiar but not quite memorable. I nodded. Professional. Neutral. He nodded back and turned his attention to the foreman. I walked away. That night I filed an anonymous complaint with the city. Not about the drainage. That was too obvious. Too direct. Instead, I reported construction debris blocking a public sidewalk. Violation of City Code 14.7.3. Minor but enforceable. The complaint would require a response. An inspector would have to visit. The inspector would be Owen, and Owen would notice things. Friday afternoon, Owen called me. Went to that Westwood site, he said. Yeah? Debris was already cleared by the time I got there. But while I was there, I noticed some issues with the electrical rough-in on Unit 3. Issues? Doesn't match the approved plans. Wirings run through what's supposed to be a load-bearing wall. Big no-no. You file it? Had to. It's a major violation. They'll have to redo the whole thing. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. That's the job. Yeah, Owen said. There was a pause. You know this guy Rourke? Not personally. He was there when I showed up. Got pretty upset about the violation. Wanted to know who filed the original complaint. What did you tell him? That complaints are anonymous. That's policy. Another pause. Adrian, Owen said quietly. I don't know what you're doing, and I'm not asking, but be careful. I'm always careful, I said. He hung up. I sat at my desk, staring at the phone. 6 weeks. That's how long the electrical fix would take. 6 weeks of delayed construction. 6 weeks of investors asking questions. 6 weeks of Caleb trying to explain why his timeline was falling apart. Marissa came home late again that night. I was in the kitchen when she arrived. She looked tired, frustrated. Bad day? I asked. She dropped her purse on the counter. Caleb's having issues with one of his projects. I poured myself coffee. Sorry to hear that. Some inspector is giving him problems, nitpicking every little thing. That's unfortunate. She looked at me, really looked at me, like she was trying to read something in my expression. You don't care about any of this, do you? She said. Why would I? Because it matters to me. I took a sip of coffee. It was cold. Does it? I asked. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she shook her head and went upstairs. I waited until her bedroom door closed. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up Caleb's investor list. 3 primary backers, 2 local, 1 from out of state. The out-of-state investor was the biggest, a development firm from Arizona that specialized in flipping urban properties. I found their contact information, found the name of their acquisitions manager. Then I drafted an email, not from my personal account, from a generic Gmail I'd created specifically for this purpose. Subject line, concerns about Westwood development timeline. The email was polite, professional, carefully worded to sound like it came from a concerned city official who couldn't speak on the record. I mentioned the permit violations, the delayed inspections, the pattern of cutting corners. I didn't accuse anyone of anything, just raised questions. Then I hit send. The thing about pressure is that it doesn't require force. It just requires finding the right points to apply it, finding the places where structure is already weak, finding the moments when someone is already off balance, and then pushing. Gently, precisely. Saturday morning, I went to the hardware store, not for tools, not for anything obvious. I bought a motion-activated security camera, small, wireless, the kind people mount outside their front doors. Then I drove to the Westwood site. It was empty on weekends. No workers, no activity. I parked a block away and walked over. The site wasn't fenced, just caution tape and a few no trespassing signs that no one actually enforced. I walked to the edge of the property, found a spot with a clear view of the main entrance, mounted the camera on a utility pole, angled down. It took 3 minutes. No one saw me. No one questioned it. Now I could watch. See who came and went. See when Caleb visited. See when inspectors arrived. I walked back to my car and drove home. Marissa was still asleep. I made breakfast, read the news, pretended Saturday was normal. She came downstairs around noon. I'm meeting Caleb later, she said. Okay. He's stressed about work. I'm going to try to help him relax. I nodded. Didn't look up from the paper. You really don't care, she said. Not a question this time. An observation. I told you, I said. I care, just not the way you think. She left without saying anything else. I waited 10 minutes. Then I opened the camera app on my phone. Live feed from the Westwood site. Empty. Quiet. I set up motion alerts. Any activity, I'd get a notification. Then I went back to planning. The Arizona investor would receive my email Monday morning. They'd start asking questions. Caleb would have to provide answers. The electrical violation would take 6 weeks to fix, maybe longer if Owen found other issues during follow-up inspections. The momentum was breaking. The pressure was building. And Marissa still thought I was harmless. Sunday night, she came home at midnight. I was already in bed pretending to sleep. She slipped under the covers without turning on the light. I lay there, eyes closed, listening to her breathe. Tomorrow, Caleb would start feeling the walls close in. Tomorrow, the questions would start. Tomorrow, the pressure would increase, and I would be nowhere near any of it. Just a forgettable inspector with a clipboard and a routine job, invisible, harmless, safe, exactly where I needed to be. The Arizona investor called Caleb on Monday at 9:15. I know because my camera caught him arriving at the Westwood site 12 minutes later, phone pressed to his ear, pacing near the unfinished Unit 3. Motion alert had buzzed my phone during a routine inspection across town. I'd pulled into a parking lot and opened the live feed. Caleb was gesturing sharply. Even without audio, his body language screamed frustration. He kept pointing at the building, at his watch, at nothing in particular. The call lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, he stood there for a long moment, staring at the construction site like it had personally betrayed him. Then he got in his truck and drove away. I saved the footage, added it to my file, went back to work. That afternoon, Owen stopped by my desk. "Your guy Rourke called the office," he said quietly. "What did he want?" "Wanted to know who filed the debris complaint. Wanted to know if there was any way to expedite the electrical reinspection." "What did you tell him?" "Same as before. Complaints are anonymous. Reinspections happen when the work is done, not before." Owen sat on the edge of my desk. "He mentioned you," he said. My pulse jumped, but I kept my expression neutral. "Me?" "Said he saw you near the site last week. Asked if you were the assigned inspector." "What did you say?" "That you weren't. That you were probably doing an inspection in the area." Owen paused. "Were you?" "Yes," I said, which was true. Technically. Owen nodded slowly. "He's rattled. Something's got him spooked. Construction delays will do that." "Yeah." Owen studied me for a moment. "This still about that background check you asked for?" "Just want to know who I'm dealing with," I said. Owen stood up. "Be careful, Adrian. Guys like Rourke don't like losing control." "Neither do I," said. He walked away. I finished my paperwork, logged my inspections, stayed until 6, same as always. Marissa texted at 5:30. "Late night. Don't wait up." I texted back. "Okay." At 7, I drove to the Westwood site. The camera showed no activity since Caleb's morning visit. The site was dark except for a single floodlight near the entrance. I parked 2 blocks away and walked over. No caution tape would stop me. I had a flashlight. I had my inspector credentials. If anyone asked, I was following up on a filed violation. No one asked. I walked through the site, checking foundations, checking framing, checking everything Owen had already checked. Then I found what I was looking for, Unit 5. Still in rough framing, walls up but no roof. The permit posted on site showed approved plans for 4 bedrooms, but the framing showed 5. Not a huge violation, but enough. Someone had modified the layout without updating the permits. I took photos, close-ups of the framing, close-ups of the posted permit. Then I walked to Unit 2. The drainage issue I'd noticed last week was worse now. Water from recent rain had pooled exactly where I'd predicted. The foundation was sitting in standing water. More photos. I spent 20 minutes documenting everything. Then I left. No one saw me. No one questioned it. Back in my car, I reviewed the photos. Enough for another complaint. Enough for another inspection. Enough for another delay. But I didn't file immediately. Timing mattered. I drove home. Marissa's car wasn't there. I went inside, made dinner, ate alone. My phone buzzed at 9, motion alert from the camera. I opened the feed. Caleb's truck had returned to the Westwood site. He got out, walked to Unit 3, stood there staring at the electrical work that would need to be redone. He stayed for 12 minutes. Then a second car pulled up. Marissa's car. She got out, walked over to him. They talked. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. He was upset. She was trying to comfort him. She touched his arm. He shook his head. She said something else. He turned away from her. She followed, kept talking. Finally, he nodded, got in his truck. She got in her car. They both drove away. I sat in the dark living room, watching the empty feed. So she knew about the problems. She was involved. She was helping him. That changed things. Not my plan, just my timeline. I opened my laptop and filed the new complaints. Unpermitted structural modification in Unit 5. Improper drainage causing foundation water damage in Unit 2. Both filed anonymously. Both legitimate violations that would require inspections. Both guaranteed to make Caleb's situation worse. I submitted the forms, closed the laptop, went to bed. Marissa came home at 11:30. I pretended to sleep. She slipped into bed beside me. I could smell his cologne on her clothes. I lay there, eyes closed, breathing steady. Tomorrow, Owen would get the new complaints. Tomorrow, Caleb would get more bad news. Tomorrow, the pressure would increase again. Tuesday morning, Owen called me before I even got to the office. 2 more complaints on Westwood, he said. You know anything about this? Why would I? Because they're detailed, professional, someone who knows what they're looking at. Could be another inspector. Could be. He didn't sound convinced. I have to go out there this afternoon. You want to come? Can't. I've got 4 inspections scheduled. Right. Pause. Adrian, if you're doing something, I'm not doing anything illegal, I said, which was true. That's not what I asked. I know, he sighed. I'll call you after. He hung up. I went to work, did my inspections, checked electrical panels and exit signs and fire suppression systems. At 3, Owen texted, both violations confirmed. This guy's project is falling apart. I didn't respond. At 6, Marissa called. We need to talk, she said. Okay, I'm coming home. Be there in 20 minutes. She hung up. I drove home. Got there before she did. Waited. She arrived 17 minutes later, came through the door already angry. Why did you ruin his life? She said. Not hello, not how was your day, just straight to accusation. I was sitting on the couch, hands folded, calm. Whose life? I asked. Don't play dumb with me, Adrian. Caleb's project is being destroyed by inspections. His investors are pulling out. His contractors are threatening to walk. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? She stared at me. You did this. I'm a building inspector. I inspect buildings. His building. I haven't inspected his building, I said, which was technically true. Owen had done the official inspections. She stepped closer. You filed those complaints. Complaints are anonymous. You're destroying his business. No, I said quietly. His corner cutting is destroying his business. I'm just making sure it gets noticed. She stood there, trembling with rage. Why? She asked. I looked at her. Really looked at her. You told me you were going to see your lover, I said. Remember? You said it while folding laundry, casual, confident, like I was too pathetic to matter. So this is revenge? This is consequences. For what? For me being honest with you? I stood up. We were 3 feet apart. For thinking I was harmless, I said. She laughed. Actually laughed. You are harmless, she said. You're a middle-aged inspector who drives a 10-year-old sedan and eats the same lunch every day. You're boring, predictable, safe. That's why I married you. And that's why you underestimated me. Her smile faded. This won't work, she said. Whatever you're doing, it won't change anything. I'm still leaving. I'm still choosing him. I know, I said. That seemed to surprise her. Then why? Because I want him to have nothing when you do, I said. I want you to leave me for a man who's lost everything. His business, his reputation, his confidence. I want you to see what he becomes when the pressure breaks him. She stared at me. And then, I continued, I want you to realize you chose wrong. She stood there for a long moment. Then she grabbed her keys and walked out. I waited until her car disappeared down the street. Then I opened my laptop and started working on the next phase. The Arizona investor pulled their funding Thursday morning. I found out from Owen, who heard it from a contractor who'd been on site when Caleb got the call. He lost it, Owen said over terrible break room coffee. Started screaming, kicked a sawhorse, told everyone to stop working. They stop? Most of them. Some are still there trying to salvage equipment before it gets tied up in liens. I nodded, sipped my coffee. It tasted like burnt plastic. Project's done, Owen said. No way he finishes without that investor. What happens to the properties? Bank will probably foreclose, sell them to another developer. Caleb's out everything he put in. Owen leaned against the counter, studying me. You feel bad about this? He asked. Should I? He's losing everything. He built his business on cutting corners and hoping no one would notice, I said. That's not my fault. No, Owen agreed, but you noticed, and you made sure everyone else noticed too. I didn't respond. Owen pushed off the counter. I'm not judging, just observing. He walked away. I finished my coffee, threw the cup in the trash, went back to work. That afternoon, my camera caught Caleb at the Westwood site again. He wasn't alone this time. 2 men in suits. Investors, probably. Or lawyers. They walked through the construction site, pointing at violations, at unfinished work, at problems. Caleb followed them, shoulders slumped, defeated. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, Caleb sat on a stack of lumber and put his head in his hands. The men in suits got in their car and left. Caleb sat there for another 20 minutes. Then Marissa arrived. She parked, got out, walked over to him. They talked. She touched his shoulder. He shook his head. She tried to hug him. He pulled away. They argued. I could see it in their body language. Sharp gestures. Raised voices I couldn't hear. Finally, she walked back to her car. He stayed sitting on the lumber. She drove away. He stayed there for another 10 minutes. Then he got up, got in his truck, and left. I saved the footage. That night, Marissa came home at 8. Early for her. I was making dinner. Pasta. Simple. She came into the kitchen without saying anything. Just stood there. Hungry? I asked. No. I kept stirring the sauce. He's falling apart, she said. I heard his funding fell through. You heard. Right. She laughed bitterly. You probably knew before he did. I didn't confirm or deny. This isn't what I wanted, she said quietly. What did you want? Someone exciting, someone successful, someone who made me feel alive. And now? Now he's neither successful nor exciting. He's just broken. I plated my pasta, sat down at the table. So leave him, I said. She stared at me. What? If he's not what you want anymore, leave him. Come back. We'll pretend this never happened. You can't be serious. Why not? I took a bite. The pasta was overcooked. You got what you wanted. The affair, the excitement. Now it's over. Move on. Just like that? Just like that. She studied me, trying to figure out if I was sincere. I wasn't. But she didn't know that. I can't just abandon him, she said. He needs support. So support him. While his life falls apart? Isn't that what partners do? I asked. Support each other through hard times? She didn't have an answer for that. I finished eating, washed my plate, went to the living room. She stayed in the kitchen. 10 minutes later, she went upstairs. I opened my laptop. The camera showed the Westwood site empty. Dark, but I had one more move to make. Friday morning, I called in sick. First time in 3 years. I drove to a coffee shop across from Caleb's office. Small development firm, 3 employees, rented space above a printing company. I ordered coffee, sat by the window, waited. Caleb arrived at 9:30. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, moving like he hadn't slept. He went inside. I waited. At 10, a woman arrived, professional, carrying a leather portfolio. She went inside. At 10:15, another man arrived, older, expensive suit, also went inside. I sipped my coffee and watched. At 11:30, they all came out together. The woman shook Caleb's hand. The older man didn't. They got in their cars and left. Caleb stood on the sidewalk staring at nothing. Then he looked up, directly at me. Our eyes met through the coffee shop window. Recognition flickered across his face. He started walking toward the shop. I stayed seated. Calm. He came through the door, walked straight to my table. "I know you," he said. "Adrian Holt," I said. "We met at a zoning meeting. You're an inspector." "That's right. You've been following me." "No," I said truthfully. "I haven't followed you anywhere. But you've been destroying my business." I took a sip of coffee. "I enforce building codes. If your projects have violations, that's not my fault." His hands clenched into fists. "You filed those complaints. Complaints are anonymous." "Stop saying that!" His voice rose. Other customers looked over. I kept my expression neutral. "You should sit down. You're making a scene." "I don't care about a scene. I care about you ruining my life." "I didn't ruin anything," I said quietly. "You built on a foundation of shortcuts and hoped no one would notice. Someone noticed. That someone happened to be me. Because of Marissa. Yes. At least I was honest about that." He pulled out the chair across from me, sat down heavily. "What do you want?" he asked. "Want? To stop, to leave me alone. What do you want?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. This was the man my wife had chosen, this confident, successful developer who'd seemed so much more interesting than a boring building inspector. Now he looked desperate, broken, exactly what I'd planned. "I want you to understand something," I said. "You thought you could take whatever you wanted because people like me don't matter. We're invisible, harmless, beneath your notice." "I never—" "You did," I interrupted. "You saw my wife. You wanted her. You took her. And you never once considered what I might do about it." He stared at me. "That was your mistake," I said. I stood up, dropped a 10 on the table for my coffee. "Enjoy your last happy days," I said. I walked out. He didn't follow. I got in my car and drove home. Marissa was there. She'd taken the day off too, apparently. She was sitting on the couch when I came in. "I just talked to Caleb," she said. "Okay." "He told me he saw you, that you basically admitted to destroying his business." I admitted to noticing his violations. "Don't split hairs with me, Adrian. You know what you did." "Yes," I said. "I do." She stood up. "This has to stop." "It's already stopped. His projects are shut down. His funding is gone. There's nothing left to destroy." "So you got what you wanted?" "Not yet," I said. She froze. "What does that mean?" I walked past her, went to the kitchen, started making coffee. She followed. "Adrian, what does that mean?" "It means the professional consequences are done," I said. "Now come the personal ones." "What are you going to do?" I turned to face her. "Nothing," I said. "I'm going to do absolutely nothing. I'm going to let him sit in the ruins of everything he built and realize it's all gone. His business, his reputation, his confidence." "That's cruel." "Is it? Or is it just consequences?" "You're not a cruel person." "I wasn't," I agreed. "But you changed that when you decided I was too harmless to matter." She stood there, trembling. "I'm leaving," she said finally. "Okay." "For good." "I'm moving out." "Okay." "With Caleb." I poured my coffee. "To what? His office above the printing shop, his truck? Where exactly are you going, Marissa? His properties are foreclosing. His income is gone. What life are you moving into?" She didn't answer. "You wanted someone exciting," I said. "Someone successful. Someone who made you feel alive. And I made sure you can't have that. I made sure the man you chose has nothing left to offer you. You're a monster." "No," I said quietly. "I'm just someone you underestimated." She grabbed her keys, grabbed her purse. "I hope you're happy," she said. "I'm not," I said. "But that was never the point." She walked out. I heard her car start, heard it drive away. I stood in the kitchen, drinking my coffee, wondering if she'd actually go to Caleb or if she'd just drive around until she calmed down. My phone buzzed. Motion alert from the camera. I opened the feed. Caleb had returned to the Westwood site, alone. He was walking through the unfinished buildings, looking at everything he'd lost. I watched him for a few minutes. Then I closed the app. I'd done enough watching. Now came the final move. Saturday morning, I drove to the Westwood site one last time. No camera feed, no remote observation. In person. It was empty, abandoned. Equipment sat where workers had left it when the project shut down. Caleb's truck was parked near Unit 3. I parked beside it. He was inside the building. I could hear him moving around. I got out, walked through the entrance. He was in what should have been the living room, standing in the middle of exposed studs and dangling electrical wires. He heard me come in, turned. "You," he said. "Me?" I agreed. We stood there, 15 feet apart, in the skeleton of a building that would never be finished. "Come to gloat?" he asked. "No." "Then why?" "Because I need you to understand something," I said. He waited. "You thought this was about building codes," I said. "About inspections and permits and violations. It wasn't. It was about control." "Control?" "You took my wife because you could. Because men like you take whatever you want from men like me. Because we're beneath your notice. Because we don't fight back. So you destroyed me." "I applied pressure where you were weakest," I said. "Your business was built on shortcuts and momentum. I stopped the momentum. The rest collapsed on its own." He stepped closer. "You ruined my life. You ruined mine first. That's different." "How?" "Because..." He stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence. Because he knew it wasn't different. "Marissa made her choice," I said. "She chose you. I couldn't change that. But I could make sure that choice cost you everything." "She still chose me," he said. "Even now, even after everything, she's still with me." "Is she?" Something flickered across his face. "Doubt." "She came to you yesterday," I said. "After I told her what I'd done. She went to you. Did she stay?" He didn't answer. "She didn't," I said. "Because you're not exciting anymore. You're not successful anymore. You're just a failure who lost everything because you couldn't follow basic building codes." "That's not why I lost." "Isn't it?" I interrupted. "If you'd done things right, if you'd followed regulations, if you'd built a solid business instead of cutting corners, I couldn't have touched you. The violations were real. The complaints were legitimate. All I did was notice. The rest was your own doing." He stood there, shaking. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "I want you to say it." "Say what?" "That you underestimated me. That you thought I was harmless. That you were wrong." He stared at me. "I want to hear you admit," I continued, "that the boring building inspector you never noticed destroyed everything you built. I want you to say it out loud." Silence. Then, quietly, "You destroyed everything. And I underestimated you. Keep going." His voice cracked. "I thought you were harmless. I thought you wouldn't do anything. I was wrong." I nodded. "Good. I turned to leave. Wait, he said. I stopped. Is that it? You got what you wanted. Is it over? I looked back at him. The professional part is over, I said. Your business is gone. Your reputation is gone. Your funding is gone. That's done. And the personal part? That depends on Marissa, I said. If she stays with you, she gets to watch you try to rebuild from nothing. If she leaves, you lose her too. Either way, you lose. And you win? I considered that. I don't win, I said. I just stop losing. I walked out. Behind me, I heard him say something else, but I didn't stop to listen. I got in my car and drove away. My phone buzzed. Text from Marissa. We need to talk. I didn't respond. I drove home, went inside, made coffee. She arrived 20 minutes later, came through the door without knocking, still had her key. I went to see him, she said. I poured my coffee. I know. He told me what you said, about control, about pressure, about everything. Okay. Adrian, you can't do this. It's already done. No, I mean... She stopped. Started again. You can't just destroy someone because they hurt you. Why not? Because it's wrong. Is it? Or is it just uncomfortable to watch? She stood in the doorway, hands clenched. I'm leaving him, she said. I looked at her. Why? Because you're right. He's not the person I thought he was. He's weak, broken. He fell apart the second things got hard. And you don't want someone weak. No. I set down my coffee. So you're coming back to me? She hesitated. That's what you're asking, isn't it? If you leave him and come back, we can pretend this never happened. Go back to normal. Back to safe, boring Adrian who doesn't cause problems. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is, I said. You want to reset. Undo your mistake. Return to the comfortable life you had before you decided I wasn't enough. Adrian. But here's the thing, Marissa. I'm not the same person anymore. You changed me when you told me you were going to see your lover while folding laundry, when you made it clear I was too harmless to matter, when you chose him knowing I'd never fight back. I'm sorry, she said. I know you are, but sorry doesn't undo what you did, and it doesn't change what I became. She stood there, tears starting to fall. So what happens now? She asked. Now you leave, I said. You pack your things, you file for separation, you move on. To what? That's your problem to solve? You're just going to let me go? I already let you go, I said. Weeks ago, you just didn't notice because I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell or beg or throw things. I just quietly dismantled everything that made your choice worthwhile. She wiped her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did, I said. You just thought I wouldn't notice, or wouldn't care, or wouldn't do anything about it. I was wrong. Yes, I agreed. You were. She turned to leave, stopped at the door. Did you ever love me? She asked. I did, I said. That's why this hurt, and why I made sure he hurt worse. She nodded slowly, opened the door. Enjoy your last happy days, I said. She looked back, recognized the phrase, the same words I'd said that first night. Then she left. I heard her car start, heard it drive away. I stood in the kitchen, alone, exactly where I'd started, except not quite. I wasn't harmless anymore. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't the man Marissa had married. I was the man who'd destroyed everything Caleb Rourke had built. The man who'd proven that pressure, applied precisely, could break anything. The man who'd chosen revenge over forgiveness. And I wasn't sorry.